Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today I'm going to try and make the fastest turning 3x3 speed cube possible. So today we're going to be doing a very exciting little experiment. I'm going to be taking this 3x3 right here, doing some modifications to the pieces and lubing it up to try and make it as fast as possible. Now what exactly does fast mean in a cube? Basically, I don't care at all about what the cube feels like or how good it is for speed cubing. When I do a turn like this, I just want it to spin as far as possible. As you can see, the cube that I'm going to be using for this project, a Chi Sail W, can already do just about a U2 when you flick it really hard just with one finger, so it turns around and does a U2. If I can get it to do maybe like a U4, turning around like that, I think I'll be happy. Maybe I can get it to do more than a U4, like a U5. That would be really fun. I just want to make it as fast as possible. Now the reason I'm using this cube in particular, for one, it's really cheap. It's only like $4, and right out of the box, it definitely does seem to have some potential. As I showed you there, it is reasonably fast without any lube or anything. And also the mechanism is very basic, very modifiable, which will be good for this experiment. Now in order to do this and make this cube really fast, I'm going to be taking 3 major steps to modify this cube, each of which should hopefully have a substantial impact on the speed of the turning. Now if all you want to do is watch me dump a bunch of really fast lubes into this cube and see what happens, then that is actually what I'm going to be doing in step 3 of this process. But in the meantime, I'm going to be doing some more technical stuff. So if that's all you want to watch me do, then just go ahead and skip to this point in the video. For the rest of you though, let's go ahead and get started with the process of making this cube incredibly fast. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make a pretty major modification to the centerpieces of this cube that hopefully will alleviate a lot of the friction that comes with a traditional centerpiece design. So basically the centerpiece right here is held in with a screw and spring, and so that allows it to kind of flex like this. But the problem with this design is that it creates a lot of friction, which slows the cube down more than you would think. Basically you have the spring in there constantly pushing up against the screw and down against the plastic, and as it's spinning, you basically just have spring rubbing against plastic, which creates a lot of friction. So we're going to be trying to solve this problem in this cube by actually removing the springs entirely, and we're going to be replacing them with everybody's favorite cubing innovation, magnets. Now this is actually something that I've done before on my channel. I believe the idea was first proposed by Chris Tran, who called it maglev tensions. By the way, he was also the person who popularized putting magnets in a cube to make it kind of snap into place like this. Of course, I'm not going to be doing that on this cube because it will make it slower. Anyway, maglev tensions, basically what you do is replace a spring, which of course has the job of being able to be compressed like this, and replace that with a pair of magnets. So basically you take a magnet with a hole in it and place it onto the screw like this, and then you take another magnet with a hole in it and place it like this, and now, as you can see, they're repelling each other, so you kind of have a spring-like action like this. Now, like I said, I've tried out these maglev tensions before in my main cube, but it didn't really turn out that great for speed cubing, basically because there's no way to adjust the strength of the springiness, and also it is very heavy. But we don't care about either of those things. All we care about is reducing friction as much as possible, and I think this will actually do that, because all the friction you have is just in between the magnet and the screw, which hopefully shouldn't be that much, especially with some lube. So basically all we have to do is stick it into the centerpiece, and oh no, it doesn't fit. So what you actually have to do is take a Dremel to that plastic, which once held the screw and spring and everything together, and through the magic of video, we have one right here that is all cleared out, and so it will now fit on here properly. And there we go. We can go ahead and screw this on, and now we can modify the remaining 5 centerpieces. I'll go ahead and do that off camera, and then show a little time lapse of assembling everything together in the end. And here we go. Here we have our core. I did also, of course, lube it with Rubik Black along the way, which is one of the best core lubes you can get, which should help to drastically reduce friction inside of the pieces. I'm not sure exactly how big of a difference this will make as opposed to just lubing the original screws and springs, but it does seem like I'm able to get it spinning pretty fast and without a lot of friction, at least more so than a normal cube's core. But either way, the process was definitely really fun, and it definitely is a very unique result at this point. So moving on to the next step, I had originally spent like 2 minutes explaining some physics stuff that probably didn't even make sense, but basically my theory is that making the pieces of a cube heavier will allow them to spin for longer. So that's what I'm going to do. So how exactly are we going to do that? Now I've thought about it quite a bit and tried out a few different options. Basically you just have a really big space in here that you can fill up with whatever heavy thing you want. Basically we want to have something metal because that'll be heavy, and we want to fit as much of it as possible inside of this little space here. So I've tried out a few options. I think my best option is dimes. And so if I just take a dime here, and a third dime like this, we now have a 30-cent corner piece. So we can close it up here and they fit perfectly. They don't rattle around or anything. And now we have a corner that weighs significantly more than it did before. So we can do the same thing with the edges pretty much. So just open it up right here, just like this. Grab 3 dimes. Same amount fits perfectly right in here. Close on up. And again, they fit just perfectly without rattling or anything. There we go. We now have a weighted edge. Now, unfortunately, we did now make this cube over twice as expensive. It requires $6 in dimes, but it does seem to be the perfect easy solution to make the pieces of a cube heavier. So let's start with the time lapse. And just putting the last center cap on here before even turning it. Oh my gosh, this thing just feels like a brick. When you see it, you see a 3x3, you don't expect it to be very heavy, but picking it up, it feels like a 9x9 or something. In fact, actually I think the 9x9 is a little bit lighter. So let's do some turning, and okay, that's super weird. That's hilarious. Everything is just super heavy. It feels like the cube is just made out of metal. You can definitely feel that extra momentum to the pieces, and I think you can even see that the pieces are having like a harder time just coming to a stop in between turns, which should be a good thing when it comes to speed. And yeah, speaking of speed, let's try it out. Let's see how fast it is. Let's see how far a side will go when you just flick it once. Okay, how far did that go? I think that was like a U2.5, almost a U3. Let's see if I can get further. That was almost a U3, okay. You know what, I think the side layers being partially misaligned might be slowing it down a little bit, so let's just set it on a table and make sure everything is super nice and square, and do a turn. Okay, that was a pretty solid U3, let's try again. Okay, very solid U3. So we want to get to a U4 or maybe even beyond that. So let's go ahead and move on to our last secret weapon, lube. So I've chosen 3 lubes that I think will do the best at making a cube really fast without any compromises. I don't want any sort of sluggishness or slow feeling to the turning. I don't even want the lube to make the cube feel smooth. In a way, these 3 lubes kind of represent the evolution of that really fast type of piece lube. We have the original Mario lube that was out a long time ago. It just made your cube fast for a little while. We have DNM37, the cubicle's basically innovation to Mario lube that makes it fast but also lasts a long time. And then we have this one that came out actually just a few weeks ago. It's called Max Fleet, inspired by Max Park, and it makes your cube really fast without any sort of that sort of sluggish feeling that you get a little bit of with DNM37. I've only tried it out a little bit on a few cubes so far, but it does seem very promising for making a cube just really fast, and I would definitely recommend these 2 lubes. So I'll put the links to where you can buy them down in the description. Anyway, moving on, we're going to start off with the first one, the most basic of the piece lubes, with some Mario lube. I don't have very much left. There we go. Just put all the drops in there. You know what? Just empty the bottle. Get it all out. I'm never going to use Mario lube again. I think that's just about empty. So let's work that in. And oh my gosh, this feels fast. So we're gonna work it in a little bit and then try out just doing a single turn on it. So I've worked it in with a solve. I was constantly doing double turns when I meant to be doing single turns. So this seems promising. Let's set it down on the table and make sure everything is square. And let's do a flick. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see how far that went. Was that a U5? I think so, because U1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would bring it back to there. Let's try it out again. Maybe we can get a U6 out of here. That looked like another about a U5. So let's try again and flick really hard. Okay, that was a U6.5, almost a U7 right there. So that was amazing, but using Mario lube is basically just the equivalent of dumping water in your cube. Let's try a lube that's actually meant for speed, DNM37. Put at least, you know, like 5 drops of it in here. That should do about good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish. Maybe a couple extra, who cares? And then let's break it in and see if we can get it any faster. So I'm gonna do a quick solve on this just to get the lube worked in. You can see just how hard this is for me to control. Just every turn I do just winds up going further than I'm expecting it to go. Just like everything just does a turn and a half. But let's go ahead and see just how fast this cube is with the DNM37 added. So let's go ahead and line it up just like we did before. Make sure everything's all aligned and everything. And just flick really hard. All right, that was a U4. Let's try again. That was a U5. Okay, so we're getting about the same results as before. Another U5. We could probably get a U6 or a U7 if we sat here long enough. Yeah, that was almost a U6. So yeah, it seems like our very first lube, Mario lube, pretty much maxed out the performance of this thing, and DNM37 isn't doing a whole lot to help. Again, the main benefit of this is just that it lasts a lot longer than Mario lube. So let's go ahead and move on to our last lube right here, Max Fleet, and see what kind of effect this has. This one I want to pop out a couple of pieces to make sure we're applying it effectively, and let's go ahead and just put a lot of this in here. So we'll get started. It kind of comes out in this weird line like this. Oh my gosh, that was probably way too much. Okay, let's spread that out maybe a little bit. The properties of it are very weird, but I think that's probably about enough. That was a lot. Put these last pieces in, and then we will once again do a quick solve on it to break that lube in. Alright, so let's go ahead and try this out one last time. Get over to the white side here, make sure everything is all aligned and perfect, and we will do one nice flick on it. That was a U4. Let's try again, maybe a little harder. Okay, that was a very solid U6 right there. Okay, let's try again. Alright, another solid U5.5. I'll call it a U6. That's probably about the limit of what we're going to get in this configuration, and I call it a success. I originally wasn't even sure if we were going to get a U4, and now we got a U6, so that's awesome. So I think that's about the best we're going to get. Again, Mario lube basically brought us to our limits on the very first try without adding any of these lubes, and adding a whole bunch of a really fast lube can actually slow it down, just if there's too much of it in there, but oh well. Anyway, I think this was a really awesome experiment. I really enjoyed adding those magnets in there and adding all the coins in and lubricating it. It was a whole lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it too as much as I did, and that's pretty much it for this video. I'll see you guys next time.